Now this one that we see right here that I believe should have been a flagrant foul was not called that, so there have been cheap shots, there have been hard fouls, there have been other plays that haven't even been called flagrant fouls. After a year of hardship, Caitlin Clark ultimately revealed all of the dishonest WNBA referees. She received her 6th technical infraction for simply punching the Stanson out of frustration, so who could forget that it wasn't just one either. Rather, throughout the season she has been the subject of dubious calls, with the referees apparently exposing her without providing a good explanation. She was fined for hardly touching an opponent's face, do you recall, or when she shouted in celebration and then technical foul. But wait, when Dayon Carrington struck her in the eye half blind and she continued to play in the playoffs, where were these so-called referees? Yes, they were most likely out to lunch or perhaps just colorblind. Well, since Clark has been outspoken about it, the justification is no longer even relevant, and to be honest, that's sufficient. That is the purpose of these WNBA officials who essentially change games and their results. Additionally, something needs to be done about that issue. There is little doubt that the WNBA officials have a significant influence on who wins and loses games. As everyone is aware, Caitlin Clark has had an absolutely amazing season. One obvious problem, though, appears to accompany her everywhere she goes: a unique whistle that nobody can ignore. Caitlin Clark has been dominating this season and is the ultimate powerhouse. Her accomplishments are truly legendary. After all, she is the all-time top scorer in the NCAA. She has amassed an incredible 3,951 points, shattering records held by Pete Maravich and Kelsey Plum. Let's talk about clutch. Yes, we are discussing a player who is changing the record books with each game. But what about the way she is now treated? It's completely ridiculous. The referees seem to be operating under a totally new set of rules each time she participates in a play, and they just so happen to overlook her unanswered calls, verify infractions that are conveniently ignored. I mean, the WNBA's corruption is as obvious as. Additionally, other players would be whistled for their landing zone infractions and shoulder charges. For right now, it seems to Clark that the referees aren't even aware of them. Perhaps they are too preoccupied with her breaking records to pay attention to the obvious no calls. Some women, maybe they are older than you and superior to you on your team, yet they will stop at nothing to undermine your success if they regard you as a rising star. This preferential treatment is more than just a small annoyance, it dramatically alters the duration of the game. One of the best players on the floor and a facilitator, her squad is expected to battle valiantly without the same protection that other superstars get. When you think about it, it's really unfortunate. Then there's the whole technical foul problem. It truly begins to seem like a witch hunt at this point. Caitlin Clark has received 6 technical fouls so far this season, and I'm not referring to punching or initiating alterations. Not at all. Clark's frustration is what led to these texts. Man, are you serious? The team received 6 technical fouls. She will be suspended if she receives one more. Clark has now received 2 technical fouls right from a suspension too. For what purpose? For being human. Is the WNBA attempting to turn her into a martyr because she displayed some emotion on the court? She isn't punching people, she is not insulting the referees, she's being honest, something that appears to be punished far more frequently than it ought to be. It's funny how the referees appear to have a particular radar that goes off if Clark displays any emotion, and it looks like she is held to a whole different standard. I believe she missed the 2 free throws after being fouled, and then I was occasionally annoyed with the officiating, but that's where we need to improve and deal with those issues. It will not be flawless, those men will not be flawless, we're not flawless. However, the value of $1 million is how Clark's reputation as an emotional player, despite the fact that we all know she's nearly determined and passionate, begins to be shaped by these technical fouls. Labeling like this as long-term consequences. LeBron, you're absolutely correct about these females' hatred of Caitlin Clark. Hey petty gals, but because this is how the world could view the situation, it is turned into gold. Actual appearance of these prejudiced referees. Caitlin flipped the table, revealing what kind of. She claims that after a contentious call the referee smacked her with the tech because, wait for it, she shown emotion. Isn't that shocking? And what do you know, referees themselves as well as experts and fans are aware of their mistakes. I believe she became irritated with the refereeing at times after getting fouled and missing those 2 free shots. But that's where we need to improve. In the big picture, it's evident that Clark is being treated unfairly by the league, which punishes her for expressing annoyance while disregarding the obvious violations that are occurring in front of their eyes. The referees seem to be attempting to paint her as the antagonist just because she is emotional. But WNBA, don't worry, you'll work this out in due time. I hope so. Anyway, Seattle, and suddenly we're rather near at 44. This has been as close as it has been during the whole second quarter. When you're among the WNBA's best players, you would think that the referees would provide some protection. However, Caitlin Clark hasn't been receiving it this season. When she's on the floor, it's almost as if the officials have a blind spot, and missing little calls isn't the only issue. Some risky and game-changing circumstances are being totally disregarded. Additionally, a few weeks earlier, a statistic revealed that Caitlin Clark was given 177% of the Chicago Sky were responsible for 80% of the WNBA's flagrant fouls this season. It's a fairly strong argument that the official target of a perverse vendetta sanctioned by the referee is Caitlin Clark this season. The Chicago Sky was responsible for 80% of Clark's egregious fouls. Yes, you heard correctly, one unmarried group. I mean, how is it conceivable that a single player is receiving more egregious fouls from one club than the majority of the league combined? However, it's definitely not biased, isn't it? That's a clear warning sign from a statistical perspective. However, it doesn't end there. This trend has generated a lot of discussion among fans on social media, with many highlighting the persistent prejudice they observe in the way officials handle Clark. People are noticing a pattern, not simply a haphazard observation from the peanut gallery. And it's causing some people to take notice. And internet feedback aren't the only sources of this kind of treatment during broadcast. Some of the most reputable WNBA experts and pundits have begun to bring it up. They aren't scared to call out referee bias on live and are openly asking whether it exists in any way against Clark. This is where it becomes even more worrisome. The integrity of the game is being closely examined as the WNBA fights for greater recognition, more fans, and more respect. The WNBA has advanced in the last many years. The league has been expanding, gaining popularity, and attracting more spectators. However, this entire officiating force is a major regression. New fans or casual viewers will leave if they believe the game is manipulated, or if they see their favorite players treated unfairly on a regular basis. The WNBA will eventually suffer if officials continue to act in such a biased and inconsistent manner. Therefore, I would advise the WNBA to take action to improve the referees' training. Sure, they are trained in the sense that they are aware of the appearance of a basketball. However, it is obvious that the WNBA could learn a few things from the NBA's decades of refining their officiating system. At least they have established a standard, don't they? Why don't the WNBA take a cue from them and teach its referees to consistently handle a little more pressure? And a special whistle should be given to the superstars on every level, including Asia Wilson, Nafisa Kerr, Sabrina Ionescu, Brianna Stewart, and Caitlin Clark. The stars are those when you reach that level, you are granted that privilege. When it comes to protecting its best players, the NBA goes above and above to ensure that they have a little additional leeway. Even if the contact is little, the referees will most likely call a foul if LeBron James is touched in the paint. Since they are the league's lifeblood, Sue takes care of them. They attract advertisers, viewers, and fans. Well, here's an idea. Couldn't the WNBA take use of this opportunity to prepare to go to whatever lengths to correct the system, accept responsibility, and put the players and their supporters first? Can we go past the same old issues and consider whether it's time to make changes to how the league presents itself going forward, how games are called, and how players are treated? Because it may be more than just the referees who require retraining. If they do not take action right away, it might be time for a major wake-up call for the entire league. What will the WNBA be like then? Continue to ignore the problems at hand, or take initiative and clean up the mess? There is a ticking clock.